Amen and thank you. Thank you, honorable members. Today's meeting is to look at the report as we have engaged with the strategy and APP of the department for the term 2019 to 2024 and the APP for 2021-22. So, and the budget thereof. I'm going to ask our content advisor to take us through the report. Maybe before we do that, can we note the apologies, Koliswa?
Chairperson, I don't have any apologies from the members.
Okay, thank you very much. Sherin?
Good afternoon, members. Hey.
Yes.
Good afternoon, members and colleagues. I'm just going to ask Koliswa. Thank you, Koliswa. Okay, the draft report of the deliberations of the Portfolio Committee on Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation on Budget Vote 2020-21, Annual Performance Plan and Strategic Plan, Water and Sanitation and entities dated. It will be today's date once it's adopted. It just says that the Portfolio Committee has considered the Budget Vote 41 and the 2020-21 Annual Performance Plan, 2020-24 Strategic Plan of the Department of Water and Sanitation and its entities, and the two catchment management agencies. The two catchment management agencies and the four entities undertaking the work on behalf of the department. That is the Water Research Commission, the Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority, and the two catchment agencies. Sorry for the repeat. Then it moves on to the background. Koliswa, if you could just go down a bit, Koli. Thank you. The background just gives a date on which the Portfolio Committee considered the briefings and considered the APPs and strat plans of the department, as well as the financial allocations as highlighted in Budget Vote 41. Number 2 just starts off with the introduction. I'm not going to read it. What number 2 does is it locates the work of water and sanitation. That is water resources management and water services provision within the supremacy of the Constitution of South Africa. And the section 24 and 27 of the Bill of Rights in the Constitution. This is an important section because it alludes to the fact of how the two concurrent functions are determined within the National Water Act and the Water Services Act. And then it provides, the Constitution provides for 3 spheres of government and sets out the function of these 3 distinctive, interdependent and interrelated spheres. I'll go down now. I'll go down, Koliswa. Koliswa, down, thank you. Just hold on. Okay, now up. A little bit more, Koli. Okay, thank you. Okay, well, from the previous section on the constitutional mandate in terms of water water services, the concurrent functions as in Schedule 4 of the Constitution, one finds that the department had to underpin all of its work within a legislative framework. And the importance of the legislative framework and devising of the framework was to provide the differentiation of service provision from water resources management. The National Water Act and the Water Services Act talks to those respectively. I just want to bring in here with regard to the legislative mandate. It's also important to understand the cooperative, intergovernmental relations and cooperative governance issues that underpin the legislative mandate. Okay, Koliswa. Are there any questions or inputs on the legislative mandate?
Chairperson, I have a question. It's Honourable Powell.
I also want to come in there.
Honourable members, can we allow to present the report and then we'll ask members to come in. Sherin, present the report and final.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay, then it moves on to the national priorities for water and sanitation as set out in the National Development Plan and medium-term strategic framework, which are the critical governmental plans in relation to beginning to look at the centrality of water within the economic space and why it's so important that it should be highlighted and be transmitted through all programs and sub-programs of the department. Then it moves on to the overview of the work of the department 2014-2019 medium-term strategic framework, and it just provides an overview of the assessment by the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation in respect of the water and sanitation sector and how far and what impact it has made in terms of realizing the targets and indicators specified by the Department of Water and Sanitation during the last medium-term strategic framework. Okay, then if you go down, Koliswa, and then it talks about, it just highlights some of the issues. I'm sure members have looked through it. 4.2.2, this moves on to the current medium-term strategic framework, 2019-2024, and it provides the high-level priorities as set out by the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation in terms of the 7 priorities. If you go down, Collie, thank you. Okay. Okay, and then it gives, that section also provides some input on how the department will undertake the 2019-2024 medium-term strategic framework in terms of realizing its targets and indicators in relation to its work, which is more detailed in the programs. 4.2.3 looks at the priorities of the Department of Water and Sanitation aligned to the medium term. 5 looks at the strategic and performance plan. What I did was I just gave an overview of what should be contained in the strategic and performance plan of the department. And one of the issues is that it must be looking at operational issues such as institutional finances, supply chain management, information systems, or human resources can be considered strategic priorities if they have to be addressed to facilitate improved performance. Okay, that's the strategic, and then we move on to consideration by the department in drafting the strategic plan and annual up. Okay, 5.2.1. The situational analysis highlighted by the department and reflected in the annual performance and strategic plan. This section talks about some of the challenges noticeably in the water and sanitation sector across the entire water value chain. It brings up the statistics of statistics of households that do not have access to reliable drinking water, but it also begins to look in the second paragraph. And one of the priorities for the Department of Water and Sanitation in the next in this year is the drafting and tabling of the National Water and Sanitation Master Plan. Go up, Poliswa. Intervention. Okay, another issue that came out.
My apology, Chairperson. I went off now and I got back. I can't see the documentation. I don't know whether everybody can, but I can't see it. I just want to confirm. Sorry.
Okay. No. Thank you. I can see. I don't know with others.
I can see.
We can see. I can see too. Can IT assist?
Can you get somebody to assist Mr. Passon? Or
I'm able to see it even myself.
yeah,
Why
okay.
don't you tell us the page so that Honorable Passon
Sherin,
can refer?
okay. Sherin,
Okay, I will. It's section 5.2.2. Koliswa, which page is that?
It's page 7, my dear.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Basson?
It's fine. I will
Page
follow it.
6.
If you just give me the section that you would be on, 5.2.2, it's fine.
Yeah. So during this difficult period, hey? During this difficult period, with regard to the COVID-19 pandemic, what the department found it absolutely essential to begin to input and to intervene with providing adequate access to potable water and decent sanitation. There in certain parts of the country that were without this necessary service. And looking at the World Health Organization, one of the most immediate interventions or mechanisms that they were looking at is the provision of water for communities to wash their hands going in and out of public places as well. So that's where the department also began to look at the kind of interventions that they would put into place. And one of the emergency intervention was for the provision of water tanks. Now to a little bit more, Koli, slightly up. Okay, one of the provisions, that's fine. One of the provisions was that the water tanks should be distributed to vulnerable communities, and water tankers would provide tanks with water and health and hygiene material distribution. Okay, the manner in which these interventions were funded, it was with reprioritizing the regional bulk infrastructure grant of 306.5 million and had registered the following progress. So the department provided the progress in relation to the interventions and the use of the RBIG funding. Koli, down. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And the department also noted that a further 6 to 5.6 million of grant funding would be prioritized. And then if we go down, Collie, to the bold component of the report. Okay, thank you. Members must also recognize that in undertaking their oversight, that the implications of the COVID-19 pandemic, it will require adjustments to the budget of the Department of Water and Sanitation and some of the entities undertaking work on its behalf. However, this will only be known once National Treasury on the 24th of June tables an appropriations budget to an adjustments budget to ensure that the necessary adjustments to respective budgets will be accommodated. It's not only the Department of Water and Sanitation that will be affected, it's a number of other departments. Then the sector priorities of the department in terms of water resources management will look at bulk infrastructure, down, investment into water resources and services. Okay, okay, stop there. The allocations. Go up one more, Collie. Koliswa. Okay, a little bit more. Thank you, thank you. These allocations. Okay, over the medium-term expenditure period, there's an amount of 41.6 million has been set aside for the water resources management, infrastructure planning and development. But mostly the funding will go towards the regional bulk infrastructure grant, the water services infrastructure grant, and transfers to the water trading entity for the development of key water infrastructure. So that entire allocation just highlights the movement of allocations between the different grants and the outputs with regard to those grants in terms of how many mega projects will be undertaken and how many regional bulk infrastructure projects will be taken, as well as the number of small regional bulk and water services infrastructure projects. But one must also remember that this is over the medium-term expenditure period. So it's also important to understand that when you engage with the department in looking at this kind of funding, that it's over a 3-year period. So sometimes at the inception of a particular project in the bulk or the regional bulk infrastructure, you're going to find a certain amount, and then if there are no challenges, then the entire allocation will be effectively spent. Thank you, Collie. You can move more down. Next. Okay. I think I covered that. Then the second one is 5.3.2, regulating water services. Okay, this is quite an important component of the department's work, because initially when the department started with its work in the water, the water and sanitation space, the main priority of the department was to look at the implementation and provision of water services. However, over time and in line with the concurrent function of the Constitution and the Water Services Act and the National Water Act, increasingly the department took on a regulatory role. And this component talks about the regulatory role in terms of water services. This also talks about initiatives that the department has undertaken to measure the compliance with in terms of wastewater treatment works, as well as state of rivers by the Blue Drop standards. If you go down, Koli, then, okay, one of the fundamentals up, a little bit up, Koli. Koli, if you could just shift your cursor. Okay, a little, yeah. No. And page 9 on the top. Okay. The essential part of the water license applications. In the past, the department struggled a lot with processing of water use license applications. And this had a detrimental impact on water users that required those licenses in order to operate and to enhance their economic initiatives or contributions. So in the past, I'm not too sure about how many days it took the department to finalize these license applications, but the department is determined and has stated quite clearly to the portfolio committee that they will try and finalize the water use license applications within 120 days. And this is commendable. If you go down to the next paragraph, Koli. Okay, then we move on to 6. Basically, it looks at the budget vote 41. As the portfolio committee knows that in order to, unlike other departments, the department has a main account where where money allocated by National Treasury is located within the budget vote 41. And that budget vote 41 speaks to the main account. However, the department has a water trading entity. Part of one of the programs in the main account, program 3, water infrastructure development. Program 3, water infrastructure development, disperses some funding to the water trading entity to undertake operations and maintenance as well as development of new infrastructure. Although the water trading entity receives augmentation from that budget, however, as a water trading entity, it also ensures that it can generate a revenue through the sale of bulk raw water. And I think one needs to put that into perspective as to why the necessity of a water trading entity. And then the 6.1 only looks at how the department has organized its work into 4 programs. Program 1, administration. Program 2, water planning and information management. Program 3, water infrastructure development. And Program 4, water sector regulation. Koli, if you could go down. Okay, and then it provides the overview of an analysis of the water and sanitation. Over the medium term, the department's budget will increase from 16.4 billion in 2019-20 to 17.2 billion in 2021. Okay. And then the table just highlights, the amounts that will be dispersed to each of the programs as defined by the Department of Water and Sanitation. If you could go down, Collie. Okay. Okay, then if I just want to highlight that the one program, Water Infrastructure Development, it dominates the expenditure because it gets 80% of the total allocation to the vote. Now, I think it's important to understand within the economic situation, within the economic landscape of South Africa, why the need for an increased focus on water infrastructure development and the need by the department to allocate 80% of the total allocation to this vote. Then if you move down, I'm not going to go into detail about the importance of each of the programs. The program 1 is administration, which is to provide strategic leadership, management and support services. Program 2 is water planning and information management, whereby this program, the program 2, water, just a little, okay, water. The purpose of the program is to ensure that the country's water resources are protected, used, developed, conserved, managed, and controlled in a sustainable manner for the benefit of all people and the environment. Then if you move down, it just gives the amounts, okay. Program 3 deals with water infrastructure development. The purpose of this program is to develop, rehabilitate and refurbish the raw water resources and water services infrastructure to meet the socio-economic and environmental needs of South Africa. Okay, then within this program itself, you will find that there are certain infrastructure grants within that program, grants that are transferred to municipalities that are able to undertake bulk infrastructure projects, and if the municipalities are unable to fulfill this function, the department undertakes the work on its behalf, more especially by use of implementing agents such as water boards on behalf of the municipalities. Then if you move to program 4, it just looks at water sector regulation, because as I said before, if the department is moving from an implementer to a sector leader and regulator in order to regulate and manage the entire water value chain. And these are underpinned by with the provisions of the National Water Act and the Water Services Act. The next paragraph just gives you the allocation to this particular program. And then the last paragraph, apart from the water use licenses, okay, that's an important component of the work as well. The catchment management agencies. Currently, we only have 2 catchment management agencies. And we need to just assess how far the department is with its proposed 9 catchment management agencies. That's some of the questions that one could relate to in terms of that program. If you go down, Khaliswa, further. Okay, now down. Page 14. Okay, page 6.3. The entity supporting 6.3. The entity is supporting the work of the Department of Water and Sanitation. These are critical institutions or entities that have been set up or established in order to facilitate and assist with water resources management. One of them is the Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority. The Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority was established in 1986 as a specialized liability management entity, and it derives its mandate from the National Water Act 1998. It is responsible for financing and implementing the development of bulk raw water infrastructure and providing treasury management services to the department and water boards. If you could just go down, scroll down, please, Koliswa. If you go down, okay, the interlink. One needs to look at the interlink between the Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority and the water trading entity, because there's a close link between the two of them. And in the 2018-19 audit, one of the challenges that the Auditor General picked up was the misalignment of the funding and financial statements reflected by TCGA and the water trading entity. So we need to just focus on that when we're looking at some of the challenges. If you go down, Koliswa. Koliswa.
Yes.
Koliswa. Okay. Okay, no, that's fine.
Koliswa and Sherin, can you make it snappy so that we don't eat time for members to discuss, please?
Okay, 6.3.2 is looking at the role of the two catchment agencies. That is, they play a key role in the use, protection, and development of water resources. And then if you go, the two tables show what are the goals for the 2020-21 and the proposed budget for the year under review. If you go down, Kolitswa, that's a Breeder Corridors Catchment Management Agency. And then the Inkomati Usutu Catchment Management Agency. I won't talk about that. You could go down, Koliswa. Scroll, okay, scroll. Scroll to the 6.3.4, the Water Research Commission. That provides a research, conducting of research on water by determining needs and priorities for research in the water sector. If you go down, Koliswa, scroll, Koliswa, scroll, page 16, page 17, Koliswa.
17.
And then the water boards. Okay, but we won't go into, you can go to 7, the observations and recommendations, Koliswa.
Okay.
7, Koliswa.
Yes, it's 7 now.
No, it's 6.3.5.
Okay, maybe there's a challenge with the network because I'm on 7 now on observation on my side.
Okay, I'm going to just look at my hard copy. Okay. And I'm just right. There are observations and recommendations. Members, if you don't have it on your screen, could we just follow with your hard copy? The first one is 7.1, implementation of the annual performance plan. The Portfolio Committee noted the impact of COVID-19 and the interventions by the department in combating the spread of this virus. Okay, it's come back on. Thank you, Koliswa. And this in the main, well, looked at the distribution of water tankers drilling and refurbishment of boreholes and other water, sanitation and hygiene interventions. The committee also noted the complaints around the distribution of water tanks and the tanks that remain empty in some areas. Page 18, please. And then 7.2 looks at Program 4, Water Sector Regulation, Budget Decrease. The Portfolio Committee noted with concern the decrease in budget for Program 4, which in real terms...
Please switch off your mic, please, members.
Okay, Program 4, the Water Sector Regulation Budget Decrease. The Portfolio Committee noted with concern the decrease in budget for Program 4, which in real terms decreases by 36.4 million or 8.3% between 2019-20 and 2020-21. They also highlighted that this program receives the smallest allocation of the department vote, and they noted and highlighted that if this program is regulating the water services sector, and in relation to the seeking to improve the turnaround time for the water use licenses to 120 days, is it feasible and practical to decrease the budget for this particular program? 7.3, capacity of the department to develop essential legislation and policies. The Portfolio Committee looked at the uncertainty in respect of the capacity of the department to develop essential legislation and policies, such as the finalization of the Water and Sanitation Bill, the Water Infrastructure Agency, and the Independent Economic Regulator determining water tariffs. These are all the Water and Sanitation Bill has been on the agenda and program of the department for a number of years. The National Water Infrastructure Agency was also mooted by the department for a very long time as well. And then the Independent Economic Regulator determining tariffs and looking critically, interrogating tariff determinations is also highlighted in the National Development Plan. And then if one moves to 7.4, it looks at intergovernmental relations, infrastructure grant funding, and constitutional concurrent functions pertaining to water and sanitation. Here it just begins to look at the lack of synergy between municipal and departmental infrastructure grants. And the Portfolio Committee noted and welcomed the introduction of the district development model, which calls for one plan, one budget, implemented jointly by all spheres of government. The Portfolio Committee commended the department for taking a leading role in water and sanitation issues in the district development model initiatives across the country, and it recommends that the department provides quarterly reports on district development model initiatives where it is participating starting from the fourth quarter of 2020-21. If you move to 7.5, budget allocation for the implementation of the National Water and Sanitation Master Plan. The Portfolio Committee noted the implementation of the newly developed National Water and Sanitation Master Plan and looked at the costs in excess of 900 billion associated with the implementation of the master plan. And this will include the development of provincial master plans to align with the national master plan. However, the recommendation there was that the Portfolio Committee recommends to the Minister of Finance and the Department that a sound costing of the implementation of the National Water and Sanitation Master Plan, which amongst others should include the identification of funding sources for the implementation of the Master Plan and associated activities by the 26th of February 2021. Then the 7.6, the municipal debts. This has been a major challenge in the last 3 or 4 years with the department, as well as the implementing agents such as the water boards. The increasing municipal debt owed to water boards for bulk water supply. Some of the challenges are highlighted there, and in relation to the 7.6, the recommendation is that the Portfolio Committee recommends to the Minister of Finance and the department to develop a collection mechanism that will be mutually beneficial to both the department and municipalities. The Minister of Finance and the department should provide a report to the committee by the 30th of November 2020. Then if we move on to 7.7, the transformation of the water sector. One of the arguments made by the Portfolio Committee was that the transformation of the water allocation to support historically disadvantaged individuals, especially black farmers, thus far has not yielded the desired outcome. And therefore, this component of the work of the department is non-negotiable, and the Portfolio Committee recommends that this must be prioritized by the department and its entities. Then another issue that came out during the discussions was the diversity of the water mix and costs of desalination. And the Portfolio Committee noted that thus far the potential of desalination as a source of water supply is not being sorry. The department observed that desalination and the potential of desalination as an important source of water and water supply toward economic development and sustainable water supply and demand for the future should be prioritized. To give effect to that observation, the recommendation is that the department should prepare a report in conjunction with the WRC on the feasibility of supplying coastal areas with desalinated water by 26 February 2021. 7.9, the contribution of the department and entities towards the triple challenges. The Portfolio Committee highlighted the various issues that needed attention with regard to addressing the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. Portfolio Committee, in line with that observation, the recommendation was that the Portfolio Committee recommends that the department prioritize programs with a clear emphasis on 30% set aside for women, youth, and persons with disabilities through targeted action plans. 7.10 is the filling of the vacant post. The Portfolio Committee looked at the vacancy rate of 14% as reported by the department, and looked at the fact that one of the challenges was that the shortlisting for the Chief Financial Officer position has been delayed for a number of years. And in this regard, the Portfolio Committee recommends that the department should fill all critical vacant positions in the department, particularly the Director General and Chief Financial Officer, by 31st of January 2021. One of the issues that came out to the Water Research Commission was the Commission's viability of employing electronic mechanisms to conduct virtual research. I think the Portfolio Committee recommends the Water Research Commission to explore this option. 7.12, we're looking at the financial and non-financial performance of the TCGA in the 2018-19 financial year. Although we're looking at the 2021 APP and the budgets for 2021 and over the medium term, it's important to highlight that when the Portfolio Committee engaged on the annual report and financial statements of the Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority, it found certain anomalies. And the Portfolio Committee members argued that this should have been highlighted or put down as an addendum to the presentation, so that there is an understanding of how the Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority would deal with that particular issue. If you move to 7.13, once again, it's looking at the Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority. It looked at the financial implications and costs incurred in relation to the Lesotho Highlands Water Project as a result of the COVID-19 lockdown restrictions and the impact that this would have on undertaking work due to the border closure. The one aspect that I think the members looked at critically as well was the qualified audit opinion of the of the Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority for the 2018-19 financial year. And some of the issues that were raised were with this impact are negatively on the TCGA credit rating and their borrowing ability and current status of credit agreement. And the recommendation was that the Department TCGA and Auditor General of South Africa provide progress report to the Portfolio Committee on a quarterly basis starting from January 2021. 7.14 also relates to the TCGA and the project delays in relation to the Crocodile River augmentation scheme. And one of the challenges was that the size of pipes that had to be installed were the incorrect ones. And I think that's the end. Thank you very much, members, for listening. Thank you, Kaliswa. Chairperson, I'm done with that.
Thank you very much, Shereen, and for the presentation. I'm now going to allow members to engage with the report. Honorable Seke.
Oh, Chair, thank you very much. Let me appreciate the report as tabled by Shereen. And I must, Mhlala, and I must, Chair, I must confirm that I think the team has done a very great job, Chair. And I think this is a true reflection of our deliberations or interactions with the Department of Water and Sanitation and its entities. Chair, just to zoom in the recommendation, recommendation 7.1, which speaks to COVID-19 intervention by the department. Chair, I think it is important that I think it's 7.1. I think it is important that we appreciate the intervention by the Department of Water and Sanitation in making sure that our communities, especially in the rural areas, receive water tanks and water tankers, Chair. And I must say that we should not be seen being too negative or criticizing every time, but just to appreciate and acknowledge the work that they've done, even though we are acknowledging the challenges that the department is facing and the municipalities are facing now, Chair. But we recommend too that the support of DWS is very important going forward for our municipalities. Secondly, Chair, on the issue of the depth, I think it's a recommendation, municipal depths. Remember, we've got, Shireen, we've got departments that are owing municipalities also. I think it should come very clear that it's only municipalities. It's not only municipalities who are owing water boards, but we've got different departments who are owing municipalities. That should reflect in that recommendation. My last point, Chair, is on the I'm not quite sure. I appreciate your recommendations too, because they do have the timelines. And it's going to be important for our portfolio committee to make sure that we track them and interact with them in terms of, or get progress report with regard in our quarterly meetings or in quarterly interaction with the department. So I really appreciate the timelines that are attached to the recommendations. And what was the last one? Chair. Okay, I'm not quite sure. How do we flag in the issue of fraud and corruption in the department? I'm not quite sure. You'll assist me, Chair, because there are many investigations, or there's a current investigation that is taking place in the department, as presented by the Honorable Minister Sisulu. But I think as the committee, we must be able to get progress report regarding those investigations in the department. Chair, I think I'm covered. Yeah, those are my inputs. Thanks very much.
Chairperson, it's.
Oh, Chair, the last one. Chairperson. Hello, Chair. Hello.
Can we please also
hello
station on the screen? Can we? Oh, okay.
Hello. Can I ask Shireen to remove the presentation on the screen so that we are able to see members.
Chair, my last point, Chair. My last point. Can we flag in the recommendation on the bucket eradication program, especially in the Free State and in Northwest? Free State, we had some progress report by department in terms of eradicating the 596 bucket systems that are there. But in the Eastern Cape, I think let's emphasize it as part of our recommendations with clear timeframes, Chair, that we don't want to see this bucket system in all the provinces. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Person.
Yes, I want to make a recommendation. We're going to jump around now. Can we do it like we did with human settlements? Let's go point by point. Otherwise, we're going to be here the whole day.
Okay. So we start with recommendation number 1. I thought your member would say that as you present, Honorable Basson, you will say that with the recommendation that have been presented, I do agree or I disagree with this one, and I add this one, so that we'll then would know that we're not going back to the recommendation as put by as we have put as a proposal. So we can just with the Honorable Basson.
Chairperson, look, when we wanted to make recommendations on Shireen's when she presented this, you said we will first go through this. So what I suggest is let's start at point 1, background. If there's nothing, we go past it, introduction, and then we go down to legislative mandate. If there's nothing, we move on to the next one. So anybody that's got under legislative mandate something to put in, we do it. If not, we pass it, and then it's approved.
That's what I was saying, Honorable Person. The report is being tabled. Honorable Seki is fine with what we have written. She has added the recommendation. Go to areas with the report that we don't agree with, or that you support, Honorable Member.
Okay, person, I just wanted.
Because if it might, we might not do with our time if we have to let's take page by page. Okay.
That's the right way. Thank you, Chairperson.
Sherry, let's go to page 1.
Chairperson.
Put it the screen. Put it on the screen, page 1.
Why do you do that, Chair?
No, Honorable Person wants to go to that page.
Yeah, but let him speak on his own points, and all of us will follow our own way of talking to the points.
Chairperson.
Okay, Honorable
Chairperson, the only problem is that I have, if I want to say something on the main account, then someone else would want to add on the main account and come back in a half an hour's time. So if we can all speak on it, maybe Robert say something that I don't need to say, or I say something that he don't need to say. So let's rather do it structurally. We did this exactly the same with human settlement when we approved human settlement. We did it page by page. If someone had to put something on the table on a specific page, he did that. We agreed on it or we disagreed, and then we moved on.
We have not done page by page. If you remember, we done recommendation, observation of members, and recommendation with human settlement. We have never go through page by page, Honorable Basson.
Chairperson, it's Honourable Powell. I'd like to support what Honourable Basson said, and not just for the sake of supporting him, but because he is correct. I sat in the chair and we had a really constructive discussion as a PC. We all made our inputs, contributed as we were going through the line items, and it worked to charm. We were done with it within an hour and a half. I don't understand why there's a different approach for this report. The Honourable Basson is correct.
There is no different approach. I'm trying to correct that. We have not dealt with the entire page by page. We zoomed into recommendation and observation and recommendation with women settlement. So that's why I'm saying, Sherin, put pages, because if honorable members want to raise issues on the body of the report, then Honorable Basson will be given that space to do that. That's why we're putting back the report back on the screen so that Honorable Basson can make his input on the report. Honorable Basson.
Thank you. It's right, Chairperson. I'm happy with that, Chairperson.
You are the next Honorable Basson.
Chairperson, so you want me to discuss everything I want to put on now? Is that what you're saying to me now?
Yes.
We are really wasting time, Chairperson, but if that is the feeling of the committee, then it's fine. Chairperson, then I want to take you to point 6 on the report.
Put it back, Sherin. 6.6.
No, it's, under point 6 of the report.
Okay.
Chairperson, we don't have, we speak about the main account, but we really don't speak about the trading account. And the trading account is the account that is creating the most problems for the department. There's an overdraft on that account, and we don't address that in this report. It's the portion of the Auditor General's findings on this report, and we should have a separate point on the main account and a separate point on the trading account. We talk about. I'm listening, Chairperson.
I was saying suggest what the recommendations, because the importance of this meeting is to make members to add or subtract what they think is not right on the report.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do now, Chairperson.
Yes.
Maybe you should follow what I'm saying.
Yes.
We have a separate heading, 6.2. We should have a heading on the trading account, and then we've got to deal with the trading account separately.
Okay.
There is issues within the trading account. It's a lot of money that's been owed to municipality. The trading account is interlinked with TCGA. And we need to address the trading account separately.
Okay.
So my suggestion is that let me then, and we did it in the past, and you need to clarify where we can do it now. We can do written submissions to you or to Shireen on that, and then it can be distributed to us.
Okay. Okay. It's fine with if you think so, honorable member.
Thank you, Chairperson. So on 6.2, I would like to add, and I'll do a written submission to. Should I send it to Shireen so that she can send it to you, or must I send it directly to you?
Let's send them to Koliswa.
I'll do that.
Yes. Okay.
On 7.1, I just want to find out, we want those positions, the vacancies, to be filled by the 31st of January 2021. Chairperson, I think if you have read the Auditor General's report, and also SCOPA, where they want to reinvestigate this department for corruption, it is very important that we get the people appointed, and 31st of January 2021 is too long. So I would make a recommendation on that as well, so that date should move forward somewhere here in 2020, somewhere in August or something like that, Chairperson.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Basson.
Chair, there's just, yeah, okay, I will just leave it for now there, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Honorable Masala.
No, thanks so much, Chairperson. Firstly, I would like to support what Mr. Basson has just stipulated now with the issue of the water trading entity, the WT account. It must appear on the report. It cannot be just like that we just leave it outside, whereas it's the one that is giving us problems. So let me go to page 3. Page 3, the second paragraph. I suggest that, yeah, on the second paragraph, can you scroll over, Sharif? Police. Okay. I suggest that we put the following.
Police.
Yeah, page 3.
Hello, Chair.
Though there are principles of cooperative governance and intergovernmental relations framework, challenges arise in relation to adherence by municipalities of full implementation of national legislations, policies, norms, and standards. This is evident in the application of Water Service Act by municipalities. Service provisions of quality water to citizens in communities is hampered by challenges associated with municipalities unable to manage its responsibilities as outlined in the Water Services Act in respect of wastewater discharges. The problem is, even if the department began to shift its focus towards strengthening its role as a regulator with stronger enforcement, it will still be bound by the constitutional imperatives of cooperative governance. This has resulted in the limited ability of intervention in a local sphere of government, as the department does not have the authority to remove the powers and functions of a non-compliant municipality. The Portfolio Committee, in its assessment of wastewater treatment works and water purifications works, has seen the impact of municipalities being unable to fulfill its obligations in respect of the Water Services Act by ensuring that operations and maintenance of their wastewater treatment plants and water purification system are at the optimum functionality, so as to ensure quality water to communities. Although the department issues directive and notices for system to be cleaned.
Honorable Musala.
Yeah, this is what you must add.
Yes, I'm saying that can you submit it to Ukoliswa?
Okay, I'll do that, but it is very imperative as well to state in the committee so that the public can know what we have submitted. And then another thing, Chairperson, let me finish what I was stating. I say, although the department issues directive and notices for system to be cleaned and operational, the limited authority of the national department within the cooperative government's principle makes it difficult to effectively enforce. Furthermore, the department undertakes assessment of wastewater treatment system through the Green Drop Initiative, close monitoring of non-compliant system in terms of Water Services Act has to be strengthened. Then when we go to page 13, program 4, I'm going to pose a question there. My question is that the department has had a long period to finalize the National Water and Sanitation Bill. Why has this process taken so long? Does the department have the capacity and capabilities in drafting legislation? Department says that the bill will be tabled in the fourth quarter of this year, 2020. But they've been saying this for the last few years. What have the state law advisors said in looking at the draft National Water and Sanitation Bill? And then I'm going to go also on page, I think it's page 17, item 7.1. I'll also pose a question. What are the oversight roles of the Portfolio Committee in ensuring that are being spent on this distribution of water tanks and tankers and drilling of boreholes were effective and followed due processes? While the Portfolio Committee knows that the interventions are needed, one has to undertake critical oversight over how the supply chain management and procurement processes are or are not complying with the Public Finance Management Act. We have seen how the department has undertaken emergency projects. An example is the War on Water Leaks and Piano project, which impacts the finances of the department for many years. Thereafter, we know for sure that these kinds of projects are used as money-making schemes for those that are looting the state coffers for their own benefit and interest. So my recommendation on 7.1 is that the Portfolio Committee resolve that the minister should undertake efficient oversight on how the regional bulk infrastructure grant have been utilized on intervention in COVID-19, more especially the supply chain management and procurement processes, which should also be compliant with Public Finance Management Act. That is my recommendation that I suggest we put on the annual report. Then let's go also to page 19. On page 19, 7.4, there are two, my proposal is there are two issues that are conflated, and we need to break them into two and deal with them as follows. We must have two issues there, intergovernmental relations, and the other one must be the concurrent function in relation to the water service delivery. Then we can put intergovernmental relations as 7.4. Then we put concurrent water service delivery under 7.5. And on the recommendations on your presentation, Sherin, when you were reading here, you say that you talked about the district development model, and then you said that I think the committee have welcomed that. I can't remember the committee agreeing on the issue of the district development model being a solution to address the challenges across the institution in relation to limited coordination across spheres of government. One needs to locate the district development model within the context of the Intergovernmental Relations Framework Act and cooperative governance and concurrent functions in water services provision, which is the purview of the Department of Water and Sanitation. Furthermore, the district development model in its rollout of pilot projects has not been appraised for its efficiencies, nor in its implementation. Are these district development model municipalities using consultants to undertake the alignment of their work to the criteria required by the district development model, as they did with the integrated development plan and water services development plans? Then on 7.5, we need to put as follows. We need to feed the recommendation that with the challenges with grant funding towards water and sanitation infrastructure and the tensions that emanate between the department and municipalities, the department through the minister should work towards the following: funding agreements between water services authorities, and department should state clearly the amount that should be funded by each party. The second point, integrated planning and consultation with municipalities must be prioritized in relation to the funding arrangements for connecting reticulation system to bulk water supply. The favorite exercise by the department is that the reticulation is the mandate of the municipalities. But as a regulatory department, should the entire value chain processes not be connected and communication between the two spheres of government be improved? So we are saying that in that one of 7.5, there must be integrated planning and consultation with municipalities in order to have effective service delivery. That's all my recommendations in this annual report. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Sala. The issue of the district model, it's your opinion, and we'll check with other members, because we remembered welcoming the issue of the district model. Let's proceed, Honorable.
No, it's not correct. We did not welcome the issue of the district development model.
Mutala, listen to the chair.
We have never ever welcomed that as a.
You are not there on Friday.
Where?
Honorable Mutala, please allow other members to make their contribution. Let's pass to Honorable Tseki,
But I can't keep quiet when you say that we have welcomed the district development model. I had to respond. We did not welcome it.
You did not. We did.
We did not agree
Did
with
not.
Now
did.
it's
No, we
EFF
did.
position.
Yeah.
No,
Don't waste the time because you're going to
Honorable
object the report.
Honorable members,
Don't waste our time,
you.
Mutala.
Are also wasting our time.
Can
Respect
Yes,
that.
you are also wasting our time because you are always talking when we are talking.
when can we
But
We are not
what
recognized.
I'm trying to say here is we did
raise
not agree
Please, you have
on
finished
district
making your
Apology,
point.
Chair.
Honorable
Thank you.
She has
Mashiru,
made
can we
the
allow
point.
to
Let's
proceed?
go
Honorable
another
Zeki,
question.
Honorable Zeki.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think I will try to put it in a soft voice. At some stage, Member Mhlala left the committee to other committees, and the work continued. Among the work that we did was to welcome and agree with the DDM, which is the District Development Model.
Point of order, Chair. Point of order, Chair. We didn't agree.
It was even presented to the committee. We were at.
Honorable Zeki, wait. Honorable
Yes.
Mokotu, can you wait? We will differ with Honorable Zeki when the times come. Let's allow Honorable Zeki to put his view. Honorable Zeki.
Yes, Chair. I just wanted to say this committee is welcomed. They can go to the minutes. Chair, I wanted to raise just two issues. On the recommendations, there's a recommendation I could not read well, and I'm trying to look at what was sent to us. I can't get it. There's a recommendation, I think it's 12 or 11, that talks about Auditor General. If that can be read again, Chair. A recommendation towards the end. I can see Member Mhlala is looking at the hard copy. If Sherin can read it, just that talks about the Auditor General there, Chair. Whoever that has found it can assist.
Which one is that?
On the recommendations. The recommendation 740, I think it's 711 or 12.
712?
It is on TCTA. TCTA.
Do you want me to read the observation?
Just that recommendation. No, not the observation, the recommendation.
Okay.
I missed it.
The portfolio
713.
713. 712. Sorry, Grace, it's 712.
Yeah, it's 712, yes.
The portfolio committee recommends
Correct.
that TCGA should provide an addendum on the way in which they will implement the findings and recommendations of the Auditor General in relation to the Lesotho Treaty between Lesotho and South Africa, as well as financing and budgeting between the two countries.
Okay, no, I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it, Chairperson. That was the first issue. The second issue, Chair, I must say we have got all interest on the report. And you have said this is the second member where you said the members must provide their submissions. Because if they were changing few items here and there, I think it was easy to follow. But if they are going to change a bigger part of the report, we want to support your guide, Chair, Member Basson and Member Mhlala, without dismissing what they are saying. But if those issues that they are raising can be sent in writing to you, because they are quite mammoth, and then jointly we are able to look at them as well. But with the current report of today, I would request us, Chair, to phrase what Member Tseke have said in relation to what the department is doing now. I think we have missed somewhere to welcome what the investigation that the department is doing, and we want to support the efforts of the department to deal with the ills of fraud and corruption. Thank you, Chair.
Are you done, Honorable Seki?
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Honorable Sikhwai.
Chairperson, thank you. Good afternoon to all the members and the officials.
Afternoon.
Afternoon, Honorable.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Chair, in appreciating the report, I think the report has tried to carry many issues that we have raised, which I think now we are to really consolidate there and there. Also, I want to raise the issue, Chair, that the issue of outside submissions to yourself, and we are unable to see them, to me could be problematic. Perhaps let's leave that to you. How are you going to carry those? Because as I could see and listen to the members, those are extensive submissions that are to be submitted. Perhaps you will assist. We do have an interest to those submissions. In terms of the COVID-19 intervention, Chair, I think the department have managed to show its strength in terms of the intervention.
Mute your mic, please. Mute your mic,
In terms of the intervention that the department has attempted to, but I think there are areas of concern about the issue of water tanks. There are many water tanks that are not well constructed where they're supposed to be, and also they do not have water. I think if the department could be able to monitor, get closer to that, and perhaps we get a report, because the issue is these are the finances that have been publicly known, that they've gone for tanks, for tankers, and they were confronted with some of the challenges. But I wouldn't say there were a lot of challenges, but I think it was because of the emergency of the program. And also it's important that we get to know about the sustainability of these water tanks. What is it? What's going to happen? What is going to happen? I understand that convict is not something that we can say it ends tomorrow. Perhaps let's have a recommendation that talks about the sustainability, what then becomes the way forward on the issue. The water bill that have been on our processes, but it's not finalized. I just want to make a proposal of a time frame to finalize this. It should be before the end of this year. We came with this bill. Under discussion, under processing, and it's still there. Can we get the bill being finalized for end of this year, end of 2020? Chair, I was present when the district development model was presented to us, and we supported it. This week, we listened to specifics, the detail on how the district development model is.
You must say the ANC supported, not all of us. We did not support that thing.
Chair, point of order. Mutlala must be noted by the chair.
Honorable
Chair.
Honorable Mutlala, please, can we allow the meeting to proceed? So if you want to say the committee, when others say the committee, you are say the ANC. So can we because the parties will have their opportunity to go and reject the report in the NA. Here we are members. Honorable Sifai.
Remember, Chair, we requested that presentation as a committee. We were complaining to say, what is this district development model? Can it be presented to us? And it was presented to us. It was presented to us in the presence also of COPTA, and we supported it. And this week, the detail and specifics of the district development model implementation was also presented to us. That is why I was saying when Shireen was presenting the issue of there's a lack of synergy in terms of dealing with the issue of development, I said, no, we have processed that. That's why there's a district development model. And we want to monitor that. Perhaps the department should really monitor the implementation of what has been presented to us. The issue of the CFO and the DG, this must not be delayed. Please remember, this process has started. It has not started now. It has started. We can't put it for next year. Can we agree that the two position needs to be filled before end of this year? In the issue of desalination, we were told that this is a program that is very expensive and very difficult. We made a request that who knows about this must be able to present to us the specifics of this. It's always said, but we want to know what is this, so that we are able to say we reject this program. It is my plea, Chair, that perhaps let's make that request again. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure because we are not audible now, but I can see the lips that they are saying Vana. Is it okay?
Oh, yes, it's you.
Okay. Thanks. Chair, let me start saying
Point of order, Chair.
What is point of order, honorable member?
No, you can't just call the ANC people. All of them now, they are talking and the other political parties cannot talk.
Honorable member.
Previously, you were doing it much better than you are doing it now.
Honorable Mutlala.
To square one. Allow, take one from the NC.
You have got one member.
You have
one member.
No.
One member, and you have spoken. What do you want, Honorable Mutlala?
You have got one member.
Honorable Mvana.
Thanks, Chair. You must be respectful when Mutlala to the chairperson. You are always chaotic and controversial. We are saying, chairperson,
nothing like that.
The meeting, I think the department has done a wonderful work. For the first time now, I received and be able to be presented by a very good report covering all the entities. Yes, of course, other honorable members have covered me in some of other instances. But with this one, Bathulela Umnqwazi basebenzile. Ngaba nje bangayi-rejecta ke, those that would like to reject it, but this is very good, because you can't in a report have a detailed each and every issue as if we are in the portfolio committee. Of course, some recommendation needs to be heard, and in a way, if someone doesn't agree with that recommendation, he must come up with what she or he wants to be written in that report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Musala. Honorable Powell.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to say that my connection at home keeps dropping. So if I get kicked out, then I can come back. It might kick me out. So firstly, I just want to say that, and I'm not getting into a long-winded argument, but Honourable Mashlala is right about Friday, because I was in Scopa. My other committee member had submitted apologies. Rebecca, or Honourable Mashlala, then went to Scopa. There was no vote taken on Friday. So it's not correct to say that the committee supported the district development model. It is perhaps correct to say that some members of the committee supported it, because we were in a separate meeting. That aside, on the point that Honourable Tseki makes about adding in a section to the report about the work
Chair, we should call people to order, I think.
By the department.
Member Powell is out of order.
Corruption. I'd like to
Powell is out of order.
Honorable Powell, let's listen to the order. Honorable Tseki.
Honorable Powell, the issue of DDM was not discussed. Was not only discussed on Friday.
It is not an point order. You are now.
It was discussed long time before Corona. So you can't, because of your absence, you assume that we did not discuss issues.
You are now debating on what Honorable Powell has said. You are not. That is not a point of order.
Honorable Tseki.
We expected what you are saying and you are doing in this meeting, you know.
Honorable Mvana, the order is not sustained for now because we said let's allow members to raise issues, and then if you want to respond to them, you'll come back. Of course, it will even depend on the time that we have. So allow Honorable Powell to give her own input, and then we'll still engage on the input if you feel he's misrepresenting some of the issues. Honorable Powell.
Thank you, Chairperson. So I'd like to support Honourable Tseki's recommendation that we do include a point about the endemic corruption that has sort of beset and continues within the department. And I think that outlining some of the steps that are being taken to address that is important. On that same note, my first recommendation would be that the committee then adds as well that SCOPA has also launched an independent inquiry into the management of the department. So I think it should be important that we add those 2 points simultaneously, because one is obviously an internal investigation mandated by the minister, but another is an independent investigation, which is very important. Then just to move to page 6 on recommendation 5.2.1, it notes that a funding gap of 33 billion rand is needed for the next 10 years, which has to be closed through improved revenue generation and reduced costs, as articulated in the water master plan that the minister launched. So it's really good that the report notes that we need an additional 33 billion rand to close the gap on water services. But I think that this also ties into section 7.5, which talks about a lack of funds for the water master plan, and 7.6, which speaks to municipal debt. So my suggestion here, and I'll send these recommendations through to Shireen and Kali, but we should include the other issues around debt in this part of the analysis, specifically around the municipal debt. Then on page 10, 6.2, it talks about an overview and an analysis, but it's not an analysis, it's actually a table, so it's just an overview. So my recommendation is we take out the word analysis at that point. Then this is quite a substantive recommendation, if you'll bear with me. On program 3, water infrastructure development on page 12, we need to add information on the challenges related to transfers and grants for water and sanitation infrastructure. We need to add information on the role of COGTA in administering the municipal infrastructure grants and the challenges in terms of sort of synchronicity between the two departments. We need to outline how the Water Services Infrastructure Grant operates, and the fact that, as with other indirect grants, the National Department is also expected to transfer skills to the municipalities so that they can benefit from these individual grants. It's very important that we include the information to present that was presented to us on this matter by the respective presenters, because there's no analysis on this in the report. And the way that funds are so badly managed and have been badly managed in the past, once handed to municipalities, really does hamper the intentions of the Water Department and the ability of the Water Department to ensure that bulk infrastructure is developed across the country. And we know as committee members that this program has been deeply mired in allegations of corruption and mismanagement. And the Auditor General himself undertook a study on the performance of the department in respect to the effectiveness of the bulk water infrastructure grants, and there were some quite substantial findings made on that. So my suggestion is that we speak a little bit more about that, because it's a really important part of the work that this portfolio committee does in scrutinizing those grants, how they're used, whether or not the National Department of Water and Sanitation capacitates with skills that the various municipalities, and then the way that COGTA and DWS work hand in hand, because we're all MPs, we all travel across the country, and we would be lying if we sat in this committee and said that things were working, because we all know they're not working. So we need to add an analysis in that regard. I'll send all of those recommendations to Shireen. And then lastly, on recommendation 7.6 that speaks to municipal debts. Now, this is a really serious issue, and the seriousness of this needs to be underscored in the recommendations. All of the committee members will remember that last year, October, we had a joint committee meeting at Parliament between COGTA and DWS, HS, and it was presented to us at that point by SALGA, Treasury, and COGTA that there was at that point 14 billion rand owed to water boards by municipalities, and 160 billion rand owed to municipalities by water users. Now, we know that we're staring down the barrel of a gun in this regards, and that the water services in South Africa are headed in the same direction as Eskom if we can't come up with really substantial and evidence-based solutions to address this crisis. So I don't agree with how the recommendation is worded in here, because it says that the finance minister must provide a report to this committee by November. Now, this issue was presented to our committee in October. We are now in June submitting a recommendation to say solutions must be found by November. That means that an entire year has passed and we've had no further information presented to us. At the time that committee meeting took place, Honourable Chairperson, we were told by the Honourable Tembu that the committee would be reconvened and that we would, as members of Parliament, alongside SALGA, Treasury, DWS and COGTA, all come together to sort of find solutions to this. That never happened. That second meeting didn't take place. So now the report notes that the finance minister must provide a report to the department. How can we as a committee develop a new collection mechanism when we know that National Treasury, COGTA, DWS and SALGA are already all engaged in looking at a way to find solutions? So I think we need to just put a little bit of information in there about the engagements this committee has had so far, that there's more than just the Minister of Finance involved in this issue, and that we really will demand substantive evidence-based solutions. My recommendation would be by a sooner date than November. I think November's too late, but I'll submit those recommendations through to Shireen. That is all from my side. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Howell. Honourable Connie.
Can you hear me, Chair?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I think my point has already been covered, because I was going to raise or to emphasize on the bucket system. I think sanitation, like we all know, sanitation is a basic right, and we need to restore the dignity of our people. There's no way that we can still have a bucket system in any part of our country. So the department must really give us a timeline to say, or time frame to say, when exactly are they going to eradicate? Because they have done well, of course, but we need total eradication of the bucket system. Honorable Teke raised it, and she mentioned Free State and the Eastern Cape. And I know that in the Northern Cape, we still have bucket system, which is a concern for all of us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mashego.
Good afternoon. Chair, I move from a premise that today we are supposed to adopt the report that we have spoken to some months ago, and we ask that the officials must go and, having received this report from the department, there are things we have rejected, things we have adopted, things we have amended, and things we did not agree on. And the officials listened to us when we said so, and they went now consolidated our report onto a report. So the view that we can put other things that were not said in that meeting, it does not represent the purpose of the meeting, because the purpose of the meeting is to adopt or amend things we said then, which is not covered by the report. And it being the case, Chair, I must say, I'm very comfortable with the posture of the report, the professionalism of the report, Cherin, the way in which we said things, they are written in the manner that we did. Of course, there were one or two things that were left behind, for instance, the issue of the bucket system, the issue of, and I must say that that what Member Powell is raising of that 14 billion rand debt and the 1.7 billion unaccounted for, and the 600 and something million, which was reflected expenditure. I know the department came back and reported to us and said, of the 14 billion rand that was left, 10 billion rand can now be condoned, given what they found. And if we can just follow our report properly, we'll find that this report is actually a true reflection of what we said. And the point I want to make, Chair, is that the DDM model was never a product of the COVID-19. So when we read it in conjunction with COVID-19, you might be confused, because we went to COVID-19 in March, whilst already the district development model has already taken place prior to that point. So if we say that it happened in the midst of the parliamentary sitting that is no longer sitting, it will be wrong, because when we were given the Thursday, the 26th of May, to be the time that we will be getting into COVID, there was already district model, and indeed we did adopt the report. And I understand the view that we never voted. Yes, we never voted because there was no difference of opinion. You only vote if there are different views. If there is none, you really do not vote. To me, Chair, I think that Cherin was in the report was reading that by January 2021, by it means you can give today, tomorrow, and other thing, but will not accept anything beyond January 21 as the time. Because remember, the adverts of positions have got time frames. You've got the DM, 3 months to advertise, 1 month to shortlist, and so forth and so on. So if you say it is in July and August, you will be missing with the time frame. But the report says, irrespective of that, by the 21st of January, we must get a report of who was appointed, if not why, and where are we. It is for that reason, Chair, that I think that we must appreciate the report of the officials. It's very professional, it's taken into cognizance all what we raised, and we need to, and I'm not necessarily saying we must not read what Member Mhlala is writing and what Member Bason will write, or Member Powell will write. Let's read it between today and the day of the parliament sitting to adopt. Was if it is something which was never discussed in the meeting, then we should be in a position at the parliamentary sitting to reject or to adopt or to accept those proposals. There is nothing wrong of the member reminding us of things that is not reported that we need to report on. But on the basis of the report before us, Chair, I am very comfortable that we need to accept the report with all these amendments. Note that there are still going to be input by the three members who raised the point, but subject to them being read by ourselves prior us sitting in the sitting. Because when we go to the sitting, when we adopt the report, we must adopt them with amendment. And we really do know that even if the report will be as good as Jesus Christ, Allah will reject it in any way. Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson, may I come in here in response to the Honourable Mashego?
Will I be allowed to respond to you too?
Honourable Member, can we allow Honourable Mohotu to give his input? You'll come back, Honourable Member.
Okay,
because I want to concur with what Honorable Mashiro has said, Chairperson. Can I come in there?
No, wait, Honourable.
I want to emphasize something.
Honourable Mushal, I have noted Honourable Mohotu is on the platform. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Everything said by all the honourable members who have already deliberated before me is a true reflection of what took place in our meetings. I would like to go straight to the point, Chairperson. I would like to talk to page 16, Program 4, Water Sector Regulation. The decrease in the budget of this program will impact on regulations, and one needs to ask the question of whether the department has the capacity to enforce compliance to relevant norms and standards and the Water Services Act. There are only limited compliance officers in the unit, but wastewater plants and purification water plants emitting polluted water into rivers and streams. Impact of this, an example of this is the recent oversight undertaken by the Portfolio Committee to the Vaal River system. The Portfolio Committee recommended that the Minister should increase the capability and capacity of the department in relation to compliance and to institute further enforcement against water users that pollute rivers and underground water. Thank you, Chair.
What do you say we must recommend then?
There is a recommendation there, Honourable, which says that.
Can I come in?
The recommendation is that the minister must enforce compliance to the regulations to those water users who pollute the rivers and the underground water. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable.
Okay.
Very, very, very important what you have said.
Can I?
Honourable Powell.
Thanks, Chairperson.
Yes.
Don't forget Chairperson.
As members of this portfolio committee, we all play our politics outside of this committee, and when it gets to the assembly, we vote and we make divisions and declarations, and we then talk about our politics. But Honourable Mashego's proposal that this committee adopts this report as is, and that honourable members then reserve their inputs and amendments for divisions and declarations in the National Assembly, in my view, it really flies in the face of
I'm misinterpreting Mashego.
Honourable members, Honourable members, allow Honourable Powell to say what he wants to say. We'll correct her.
Thanks.
If he's not representing Honourable Mashego, what he said, Allow her to say what, because it's important that we understand one another in the meeting, what one member has said.
Thank you, Honourable. Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. And if I have perhaps misunderstood what...
Honourable Powell?
Can you hear me? Chairperson, can you hear me? Chair, can you hear me?
Can hear you. Continue.
Okay.
Yes.
So perhaps then I'm not.
We can hear you.
Cool. Perhaps then I haven't really understood what Ms. Necho is saying. And if I haven't, then my apologies. But I would just like to say that I really would hope that in this forum, in the committee, that we are able to all really substantively engage on the reports, and that the floor is open for us to all make our individual contributions to ensure that we are all, as committee members, of the view that the report that goes before the National Assembly is comprehensive. So I would just like to say that I really do hope that the inputs of the respective members in this committee will be included in the report prior to it going to the NA, and that the report that we see before us will not be the final version. Thank you, Chairperson.
Which we did, Man Powell. We did then.
So just Honourable Powell, we're missing you. Some of the words we couldn't pick up. We couldn't pick up. And can I allow Honourable Mokhoto? You wanted not Mokhoto. Honourable Masala, you wanted to say something.
Chairperson, I want to concur with Honourable Mashiko on the issue of saying that what we are dealing with here is the proceeding of the meeting where budget vote and APPs and the strat plan took place. But also what I want to reiterate further is the district development model came after that and should not be included. It was not part of the strat plan meeting, the APPs and the budget votes. So it must not be in the reports. That's why I want to concur with him on that regard. The other thing, Chairperson, you are the ruling party. It's up to you whether you want to take the recommendations as deliberated in those meetings. If you don't want to do it, you have the majority. You can do as you wish. But the problem is our poor people on the ground that need water, need supplies, that need sanitation. It's up to you pick and choose.
The people on the ground is a minority. You are
What?
a minority. You can't represent people on the ground. You are a minority, Msala. You can't represent people on the ground.
We have
Msala.
Can you mute all members, Honourable
I'm trying to state facts. So it's up to you whether you pick and choose facts.
Honourable Masala.
You are a minority, Msala.
Why do you do this?
The budget. Thank you.
One member, Msala. One.
Can you mute all members?
Hello, Chair.
But the NC is disturbing me, Chairperson. I'm and the NC.
Chairperson, unmuted.
So unmute the chair. Colleagues, unmute the chair. Didi Makato S.
She must unmute herself. Well, on that side, I can't mute on my. I can't do on this side.
Honourable Musala, you like when I fight.
I'm not fighting. I'm stating facts. I'm stating
order, members, order.
You are misrepresenting facts, Msala.
Order. What liberated in the APP?
You were not there. You could not have heard it.
Then today you just say
you were not in the meeting.
Order, members, order. Members, order.
whatever you
We're
want.
not in the
Hi,
meeting.
hi, 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 hi.
Chairperson,
Chair,
Chairperson,
can
please
you
unmute
come
yourself,
in?
Chairperson.
Where's
can
Chair?
I come in, Chair?
Chair, it's muted. Chair, where are you?
Who muted us?
Chairperson,
Honorable
unmute
member,
yourself.
I suspect
Who
Mutales
muted
muted
us?
the chair.
honorable members, can we respect our meeting? If we want to,
But you are
respect-
infringing our rights, Chairperson. You are out of order. You can't mute me when I'm talking. You are infringing our rights. I'm
Honorable
saying
Muthala.
what was deliberated
Honorable Muthala.
today. My submission
Honorable Muthala,
is
you
what
must
was
never
done
respect-
and deliberated
Honorable
in the
Muthala. Honorable
the
Muthala.
budget vote and it's
Honorable Muthala.
so it's
Honorable Muthala.
them for receiving
Honorable Muthala.
you can choose and pick
Honorable
whatever.
Muthala.
Thank
You know
you.
your weakness is that you want people to listen to you. You don't want other people to listen to you, to them.
We
We said that.
It's
honorable
also your problem, Chairperson.
Honorable members, we said, honorable members, the people. I'm saying there is recommendations from members that we adopt the report. There is a recommendation from Honorable Basson which says that he will formulate a resolution on the trading account that we should look at. There is the issues that were raised by Honorable Muthala, because they are long, I will not repeat them, which will see them as they come. And member says, if it's changing the content of the report, we should bring it back to the committee, should not be part of the report. That's what members are saying too. And then including the one of Honorable Powell, if they change the content of the report, should not be included. And Honorable Shireen, are you still here?
Shireen.
I am listening.
Yes, Shireen, I see you have not talked about the recommendation on the accruals and other related finance management, because there is a resolution that we agreed when we draft the report. You remember?
Yes, Chairperson. I will include it again. Sorry for the oversight.
Okay, thank you very much, Shireen. Honorable members, we have interacted with the report, and majority of these members say the report should be accepted, and we'll actually wait for the input of other members, and then we'll include them. If they don't change the content of the report, we will include them. But if they change the content of the report, we will not include them. We'll call for another meeting later. But the report has to be tabled by tomorrow, honorable members. Thank you very much, honorable members.
Chairperson.
Okay. Honorable Basson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I've already sent my recommendations. I've already emailed it for your attention. So would you please have a look at it? I don't think it changes the report, neither the recommendations by Honorable Powell. It's just an add-on. It's not changing the recommendations of the report. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, Honorable Basson.
Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Shireen. Shireen. Sorry, Shireen. Honorable Shireen.
I need all the benefits of being an honorable. But Chairperson, what I'll do, sorry, what I'll do tonight, once you and Koliswa receive those recommendations, I will put it back into the draft report, highlight it in red for your attention, and then submit it to you again. Those particular amendments and recommendations, if that's fine with you.
Okay, honorable member, Shireen. So, honorable members, Let me, because Honorable Bason says his input is already on the email. Can I, because we still have time, can I ask members to look at them to agree on them? There's okay, all right, thank you very much. Honorable members, the meeting then is adjourned.
No, you can't adjourn like that.
Hello, Chairperson.
No, Chair.
Yes.
We have to agree.
We need to get the mover and the second of the adoption of the report.
Oh, okay. I thought.
I move.
Listen, I want to ask something before you adjourn the meeting. So, what is the procedure? Let's say.
Let's finish.
I move the adoption of the agenda as amended, Chairperson.
The report. You said the agenda. We're talking about the report, Honorable.
The report.
I move the adoption of the report as amended, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable.
Amended by Honorable Bason.
No, Honorable Bason. No. Any addition, Honorable members?
The second, Chairperson.
Second.
I second. Mashima second.
Thank you very much, Honorable members. Honorable Muthala, you said you wanted to ask for the process.
No, I wanted to ask the process of how are we going to deal with this when we submit the submissions. Is the report still going to come back for adoption, or how is it going to happen? So I don't know, because the report is already been adopted, and you did not even read Honorable Bason's additions to see if you are agreeing to them or not. So, but anyhow, it's, we also have our recommendations to submit. I don't know when you say with with amendments. What are you talking about? Which amendments?
Exactly the ones that you are going to submit.
Highlight them. These are the amendments here in 7.2 and 7.3. You highlight them like that.
You are now teaching the chair to chair the meeting.
No, Honorable Muthala, I've said that you have not submitted, and you want to.
Which amendments are you talking about?
I'm saying there were members. All these members have made amendment in terms of the recommendation. In some instances,
including us, because we also did the amendment.
Including you, if it doesn't change the content of the report, we will not take it. If it changed the content of the report, it's subject for discussion.
And you need to highlight the amendments, Chair. You can't just say with amendments. Highlight, because there are certain things that you rejected.
No, Muthala, you did the amendment.
We have not rejected anything.
You need to know the amendment. What amendment are you talking about?
Honorable Muthala,
only me when I'm
Honorable Muthala, it's your view, and allow other members.
Not the view, it's the procedure. The procedure is when there is amendment.
I don't know the procedure.
When you read them, these are the amendments. That's so that when you adopt and second, what amendments are you talking about?
Have you ever
amendments that
we
you
are talking about the ones that you added. We are talking about the ones that
Chairperson, on a point of order.
Honorable Seke.
Chair, you have summarized the deliberations of this meeting in a sense that honorable members, you have made submissions, which is Honorable Bason, Honorable Muthala, and Honorable Powell. They will submit those and all the members.
All members who have made inputs to amend, we are going to do that.
Definitely through the committee secretary. Definitely. So, Honorable Muthala, this is the procedure. All the amendments of the honorable members, this is the procedure. So I think for now, Chair will go back to the procedure of the meeting, which should be, is there anybody who's objecting?
Chair?
Or who's not supporting the report?
Chair, objection. You must note the objection of EFF, Chair.
That's what we want. Okay. We've been waiting for this.
As
We can't support something that we don't know what you are amending.
Yes, it's as usual. You don't know what you were saying.
What you are amending, we don't know.
We've noted your objection.
It means you don't know what you were saying.
No, amendment is null and void. The amendment of
Chair, Mashiko, can you allow the chair to speak?
Amendment,
Honorable Mashiko, yes, we Honorable Basson, you wanted to say something?
Yes, Chairperson. I don't want to reject a report that's not finalized. I really plead with the committee. We've made good recommendations. Let's put those recommendations into this report. So we reserve our right, if it does not go into a report, that we will not then, we cannot then support it. So we feel that it's not going to change the report at all. Please take note of that, and then we can, if there is major changes, let's rather just meet again quickly and see whether we can't resolve that. Thank you,
I support Basson. Let's meet again so that we can see whether
we're not going to meet. We're not going to meet. We have noted your objection.
Objections, yes.
Input of Honorable Basson, and then
but even are nullified.
We have the right to participate in this.
Chairperson.
The reason why we objected because you failing to
report has been adopted with the note
to state exactly what the amendments are.
Chairperson.
The report is adopted. We have noted the.
Leon, you are wearing a short.
Chairperson.
The meeting is televised.
So, Honorable
Switch off the camera.
Honorable Leon,
Chairperson.
Member, can I close the meeting before we?
No.
Sherin is on
the meeting, Sherin.
Yeah, I just want to.
Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.
Chairperson, the way you close this meeting is very out of order, I'm telling you.
Man, you are objecting the report, Muthala, man.
Oh,
Muthala, you are objecting the report.
There's a speaker who still want to talk there, but the meeting is being closed.
It's Sherin. I said Sherin
will talk to the chair.
Talk the chair.
No, don't worry, it's part of the management.
You want to hear what is she saying?
It's not for your interest. It's not for your eyes and ears.
Now 11 minutes past 5.
Because this thing is a lot.
Close the meeting.
Why not this a delaying tactic, Muthala, man?
No.